Hello and welcome to the Bison Basketball Show. I'm Brian Shawn. We're nearing the finish line of the non-conference season for both the NDSU men's and women's hoops teams. The Bison men playing its final non-conference home game against California Davis on Wednesday night. The Bison looking for their first home win since November 22nd and a back-and-forth first half. Carlin Dupree kept the offense afloat, scoring 6 straight points, including this jumper. Dupree had 11 of his 15 points in the first half. But the Aggies finished with a 5-0 spurt. Lawrence White slicing through the defense for the lay-in, plus the foul with just 5 seconds left in the half, and UC Davis takes a 7-point lead into the locker room. Second half, NDSU rallying back from an 11-point deficit. Kai Cabellas out in transition, pulls up for the short jumper. Cabellas, 15 points and 7 rebounds. Later, off the missed 3 by Tyson Ward, Dexter Warner corrals the rebound, goes back up and in for the bucket and the foul. Warner, a game-high 10 rebounds. It's a 1-point game. Next possession, Ward firing up the 3 from the corner, giving NDSU its first lead of the second half. Ward, 8 points off the bench. Chima Manecki, tough inside all night for the Aggies. The jumper in the lane, Manecki had 21 for UC Davis. Paul Miller got rolling for the Bison later, a pair of long triples. This one extends the lead to 4. Miller, a game-high 17 points. UC Davis would not go quietly. Brinton Lamar splitting the double team, hitting the floater. He had a game-high 22. Closing seconds, Bison leading 72-70. Lamar driving to the basket, looking to tie it up, but blocked by Dexter Warner. NDSU gets the rebounds, hits a pair of free throws to ice it, and picks up win number 7 by the final of 74-70, shooting 54% in the second half and 6 of 13 from three-point range.
Especially, obviously, after what happened last time we played here. We wanted to come out a little bit stronger than we did this time, but just to come out with a win is big.
After a couple go down, just builds more confidence, and then you just be more confident to shoot the ball, and you shoot the ball a lot better. It's just you got to be mentally tough. So it's definitely going to be better for us now that we're all flowing correctly.
We now welcome in men's head coach David Richman to the set. And Dave, a fun one against UC Davis. You had a whole week to get ready for them. I know some of the guys had a bitter taste in their mouths after what happened a week ago, but what a rally in the second half. Big for some of the young kids to step in and play some meaningful minutes as well in the second half.
Yeah, it was a fun one, especially for those last 8 minutes or whatever it is. And I think what you understand as a college basketball coach is you're dealing with 18 to 22, 23-year-old young men. And there's a lot going on in their lives, in particular this time of year with finals. And I go back to my office afterwards, and AJ really struggled. Let's face it. And I look at his final schedule for today. He's got 3 straight finals. Well, we know where his head was. But the other thing I think is confidence, and as the kids say, swagger. Plays a big part in what's going on the court for them. And it was good for us to get some of that back a little bit because we've all seen it. We're certainly capable of it. And it was a much needed and a terrific win and a great environment. I thought our fans were terrific, brought great energy down the stretch for us.
I know some of those perimeter jumpers just were not falling consistently. Finally, we saw in the last 8 minutes there was a barrage of them. Tyson Ward hit a couple, Paul Miller hit a couple, and that seemed to get everybody else going. I have to figure eventually those shots were going to fall for this team because we've seen them fall in the past for those guys.
Absolutely, and I think that's the big thing that you fall back on is they've gone in the past, and I think hopefully our guys did a better job of executing. They ran it with better pace, and we got better looks, and we still struggled in the first half, but when you go back and watch it, they were pretty good looks. And I think when we finally got some to go, that stuff is contagious, and it takes one to start a fire, and we got a couple of those going, and it was good to see some other guys get going. Tyson's a guy that's certainly capable of it. We've talked about it, but you saw him go in. He held his follow-through, things that we've been on him for, and then Paul. Again, I talked about this post game. It's been well documented how Paul was last year and all this, but he kept himself, his body language, his energy, helping his teammates. He kept himself in the game long enough to where we needed him to actually produce. He was able to do that, and that's a big step for him and obviously for us as well.
I know one thing you had talked about last week with me is, hey, we can't change who we are just because we've had a rough stretch here. But you did tweak a few things, especially on the offensive end. Really got into your offense quicker, pushed the ball up the court, and got into things a little bit quicker than what we've seen in the past.
What do they say the definition of insanity is? Doing the same thing over and over and repeating and getting the same results. So again, everything that goes on within this program is responsibility of me as the head coach. And we made some tweaks, and but they weren't drastic tweaks. They were, like you said, we played a little bit faster, we played with a little better pace, we tweaked some of the positioning with some guys. And that's the beauty, I think, of what we do, is just understanding that what we do is good enough. You just got to trust the process, and you got to do your job over and over and over again, no matter what the circumstances are.
2 more non-conference games, both on the road, North Dakota, and you're looking forward to that one, the players are, and then going to Arkansas. What do you want to get accomplished in those 2 games before conference play is right around the corner here on the 28th of December?
It's cliche, it's coach speak. We need to continue to get better. This is a great opportunity against North Dakota for a lot of reasons, and everything sets up for Summit League play. We're going to play everybody in the Summit League twice. We're going to go around and play North Dakota twice, and so they're a talented team. But I know you're right. Our guys are definitely excited. They got a little chip because of what happened. That doesn't guarantee us anything. They're a good team. We're going to need to go out and compete.
Thanks so much for joining us, Dave. Happy holidays to you.
Thank you, Brian. Happy holidays to you and your family as well.
Appreciate that very much. We will be back on the Bison Basketball Show as we check in with head coach Coach Walseth and the Bison women this past week.
The Bison Basketball Show on Midco Sports Network is presented by Nodak Mutual Insurance Company and Minnkota Windows.
Welcome back to the Bison Basketball Show. The NDSU women's basketball team had a chance to play back-to-back home games for the first time this season. The homestand starting against in-state rival North Dakota at the Shield Center. The 83rd meeting all-time between the two schools and 5th in the Division I era. NDSU off to a fast start thanks to the inside play of BRIANNA Jones. Gets the feed from Riley Jacobson for the lay-in and an early 4-point lead. Second quarter, Jones again showing her strength. Strong move in the lane to the basket for 2 more plus the foul. She finished with 15 points and a team-high 7 rebounds. Just before half, Emily Spear turning around, facing up, hitting the jumper. UND would lead a very defensive first half, 29-22. Taylor Thunstead came into the game tied for the most three-point shots made in the NCAA. She had 4 against UND, including this triple, to trim the lead to 6. Later, Sarah Jacobson finds Kennedy Childers on the wing, another 3. She added 6 off the bench for NDSU, but the Fighting Hawks start the fourth quarter on a 13-4 run. Lexi Clabo driving in for the lay-in plus the foul. She added 18 points and 10 rebounds off the bench. UND wins at 76-55. Thunstead finished with 15 points for NDSU, but the Bison hurt by turnovers, committing 21 in the loss.
Every game is another opportunity for us, and we have to go out and get that opportunity. And tonight we just didn't take advantage of that opportunity. We let other things get the best of us, and we let another game slip away.
The Herd right back into action against Mayville State just 48 hours later, starting the game on a 12-1 run. Sarah Jacobson leading the 3-on-2 break, giving it up to Taylor Thunstead. For the lay-in, Thunstead also a pair of threes, finished with 19 points. Later in the first quarter, kicked out to Kennedy Childers. Open look for 3. Childers added 17 off the bench. The Bison continuing to roll. Riley Nudell spotting up at the free throw line, knocking down the jumper. Nudell 11 rebounds and 6 points. Bison up 31-13 after 1. Second quarter, Thunstead looking inside to BRIANNA Jones. She muscles inside for the basket. Jones a double-double with 20 points and 18 rebounds. Bison up 18 at the half, and they continue to roll in the second half. Sarah Jacobson, the shot fake, burying the open jumper. She added 14 points and a team-high 8 assists. Then it's Riley Jacobson going to grab the offensive rebound, put it back up and in. Jacobson also a double-double with 11 points and 12 rebounds. NDSU rolls in this one. 93-44 is the final. The Bison had 44 points in the paint and turned it over just 6 times in the contest.
It was a really good game. I mean, we needed that win going into the Christmas tournament, and then especially Summit League starting after Christmas. So it was a good confidence boost for our team. I thought we shared the ball great. I thought we had really good pace throughout the game. So if we just keep that up, we're going to be super successful.
We had a lot of people score, a lot of points, and just being able to pass the ball, have a flow to our offense, and come together, and just to have a win before we go to Texas, give us a little momentum before we go on the road, and that confidence that we can play together, we can hit shots, we can rebound. It was a great win.
We now welcome in women's head coach Coach Walseth to the set. Maren, back-to-back home games for the first time this year. Started with North Dakota, physical matchup. Obviously, you knew that was going to be a tough game. What did you take out of that game?
I think there's a big part of us being prepared for a whole year, not just work on the physicality the week of. And so being able to perform with that physicality for 40 minutes is something we need to continue to work on.
48 hours later, you come back and host Mayville State. You get out to a really fast start. everything is really going your way. It must have been nice just to see all the pieces come together because you had a lot of contributions in that game.
We did. We scored from 1 to 8 last night. I had a lot of different players with rebounds and assists. It was a total team win and a team effort. And I think the thing I'm most proud of or most excited about is the 22 assists on 33 made field goals. I think that really speaks to playing for each other and playing for somebody else, not looking for what's best for you as an individual.
Yeah, 19 offensive rebounds in that game. That helps as well. BRIANNA Jones had 18 rebounds in that game. She had a great game as well. Only had 8 players dressed. You alluded to it a little bit. Emily Spear out, Hannah Bresky still out, Autumn Ogden still out. I know that's a challenge, but how does that move things going forward? Other people got to step up and play bigger roles, I'm guessing. We saw Riley Jacobson make her first career start.
That's exactly it. You know, we talked about we're going to roll with the 8 that we got. And obviously we want to get those other 4 healthy just as soon as possible, and our medical team is doing a great job on that. But when we only have the 8, the roles do change a little bit. And when there's an opportunity and your name or your number is called, step up to the plate. And I thought that Riley Jacobson did a great job in that. I thought Anna Good Hope, with a few extra minutes, did a good job in her role. I thought Kennedy played very well, so it was a team effort.
Now you get to go on the road, 2 more road games, but at least you're going to a warm place. It's the last games before conference play starts. What do you try to get accomplished in those 2 road games to build up to the opener on the 28th of December?
I think a lot of it is confidence, and I think our rotations are a little bit more solidified. I think we understand our roles a little bit more, so now it is gaining that confidence, enjoying the moment, enjoying the time without school and whatnot before we head home to our homes and our families and then come back together for conference play.
How much easier does that make it now to get some things accomplished where the players can just focus on basketball for the next couple of weeks, not have to worry about school after this week?
You know, we are here to be student athletes, and they take great pride in their academics, but I know that it is mentally it's a lot on their plate, and so being able to put that to rest and really focus on basketball is a fun thing for them.
All right, thanks so much, Maren, and have a great holiday break.
You too, thank you.
All right, Greg Steeman will join us next, our color analyst, as we break down conference play and look ahead, coming up next to the Bison Basketball Show. Welcome back to the Bison Basketball Show. We now bring in our color analyst, Greg Steeman, to the show to talk more about a look ahead as the conference season gets started for both the NDSU men and women's squads. We've seen the men take some steps forward, some steps back. Inconsistent play so far, Greg, but what do you make out of North Dakota State from the conference season? We've seen how good they can be at times, but we've also seen how they can struggle at times as well.
Well, I think what you're seeing from a team that has an experienced core of guys is at times a tendency to be content with where they're at, and that's just something that great teams, championship caliber teams, will never allow that mentality to settle in. Any type of complacency or a thought process that, hey, we're where we need to be. Championship teams or teams that contend for championships are those that will find ways to improve, find the parts of their game that they need to continually get better at. And I think that's something that NDSU really needs from their core veterans, is just no room for complacency. And I think it's in them. They just have to get it out of themselves.
There's a reason why this team has won 20 games for 4 straight years and why they've been in the Summit League Tournament Championship game 4 straight years. And these guys have been through that before. This is just a matter of them finding the confidence in themselves to say, time to turn it on now, because these games really do matter.
Well, that's a good question. You know, Coach Richman talks about culture a great deal, and that's something that that the leadership has always had, and that's what this leadership has to make sure they have, or make sure they're drawing on from here until the end of the conference season or the end of the regular season, is just that that attitude that says we are never satisfied with where we're at, whether we just came off a poor performance and we're fortunate to win, or we came off a blowout win, whatever it might be. That you have to have a mentality. We talk about it, Brian, during our broadcast. College players have to have a short memory. The last play doesn't matter. I'll tell you what, college players have to have a short memory when it comes to their last game too, because they've got to find a way to move forward and never settle for where they're at.
Let's switch gears to the Bison women a little bit. Obviously, they've had their struggles. They've had to go on the road a lot. They've been in some games, Milwaukee, Western Michigan here. They've had some spurts where they've played really well. The consistency not there yet. For them, what is the challenge for them now as they get into conference play? Because they're still searching for that first Division I victory.
Well, it's a great question. I think the number one thing that they need is just some shred of confidence. Getting a win here and there is going to be extremely important. As a coach, you want to always talk about the process, but the results factor in after a while too. And This group, even though a lot of their contributors are young, they have to grow up in a hurry, and they have to have an expectation of success and play that way. Easy to say, not nearly as easy to do and put into practice, but I believe that's the challenge for Coach Walseth and her staff, is how do they take some of the things that they're working on in practice and carry them over into games and force themselves into some success. I think that this group has it in them, and it's up to Coach Walseth and her staff to find a way to allow that to happen.
We've seen players elevate their game on this stage. Sarah Jacobson at times has been really, really good. Taylor Thunstedt, one of the nation's top three-point shooters. Yep. Emily Spear at times has been a dominant force for the Bison. What's the key for them now to continue to move forward and continue to improve?
Well, the key is you alluded to different players at different times. How do they all bring that together? How do they bring that level of competitiveness and that level of success together on the same night in, night out? That's not easy to do, and I think that's the challenge right now, is to build that consistency, and that's the challenge for Coach Walseth. I don't think there's any question they'll get it out of them.
All right, thanks so much, Greg. Appreciate you joining us here on the Bison Basketball Show this week.
Always my pleasure.
All right, stay with us. We go in depth with one of the Bison women's assistants that's been at NDSU for a long time. A story and a feature on Keith Dickhudt is coming up next. Welcome back to the Bison Basketball Show. Keith Dickhudt is the longest tenured coach on the NDSU women's basketball staff. Now in his 5th season, Dickhudt has had a chance to learn under many different coaches, starting with his time on campus as a student. Here's more on the St. Paul, Minnesota native.
Good, good. 2 hands, 2 feet, 2 hands, 2 feet.
Keith Dickhudt came to North Dakota State University back in the fall of 2004 as a college student looking to follow his passion for sports. He started out working for the student newspaper, covering Bison basketball games as a reporter.
My first game I got to cover was a women's basketball game where Katie Lorenz hit the jumper over SDSU to win. And right there I fell in love with both sides of the game. 15 seconds here, 15 seconds, down and back, let's go!
As his love for the sport of basketball grew, he decided to take another turn in his career path, tossing away his media pass to be a student manager for the Bison men's team, a job and role that felt just right.
There it is! After talking with Tim Miles for 3-4 games and meeting Saul and really spending a lot of time with Dave and Jason Kemp, I fell in love with what coaches do, this side of the game. Stay out, hands up, hands up, hands up. Yes, keep her there, keep her there.
Dickhudt served as a student manager for 5 years, working under Tim Miles, Saul Phillips, and Dave Richman, learning the ropes of what it takes to coach at the college level.
That staff was full of dynamic personalities, and Danny Weiss was director of operations at the time, and now he's over head coach at Crookston. So you're looking at 5 dynamic personalities that are doing great things right now. And I walked into the teeth of it and was just immersed with how basketball is done at a high level and what winning looks like and how you treat, mentor, and encourage players throughout the process. So for me, I came in wide-eyed.
Dickhudt worked his way up to video coordinator at NDSU before taking his first assistant coaching job at Arkansas Fort Smith. A year later, an opening came up back at his alma mater, and he jumped at the opportunity.
Anna, you can be lower, Anna, you can be lower.
You become an assistant coach, and then through the transition from one coach to another coach, here's Keith, who's kind of the one guy that's still here that's been through all that. What's that experience been like for you? I'm sure you had to learn a lot of different things during that time span.
I sure did, and I got to cut my teeth down in Arkansas. I kind of call it a sabbatical because the first opportunity I got to come back home to North Dakota State, I took it, and it was for 2 reasons. I always talk about how North Dakota State is home for me, and this is family. And not only is it the people that live here and my blood that live here, but my wife is here. Right here, we're going to the checkpoint, shot fake.
Yeah, the hands there.
Yep, because look how long your arms are.
If I see you on the court, you're a positive guy. You're a guy that's always trying to work with kids. How would you describe your coaching style, and how would you compare it to some of the others you've worked under?
Yeah, I would say my coaching style is exactly what we preach every day in our meetings. And what the vision that Marn wants for this program is we want to coach with love. And sometimes it's hard words because we set standards and the kids show what their level of excellence is, and our job is to hold them to it. Get her, get her. Call Hannah, call Hannah, call Hannah.
I know a big part of being a coach is just having fun, enjoying what you're doing. Can you imagine doing anything else in your life right now?
No, I can't believe this is a job. They pay me for this. This is great. You know, it's so easy to wake up and want to be here every night or every day and get here early every day because this is really, really fun to do.
During his time as a student at NDSU, Dickhudt also served as youth basketball camp coordinator and earned his master's degree in 2010 in mass communications. Stay with us. We will wrap things up here on the Bison Basketball Show, preview the final non-conference opponents, and take a look ahead to the Summit League schedule. That's coming up next.
The Bison Basketball Show on Midco Sports Network is presented by Nodak Mutual Insurance Company and Minnkota Windows.
Back to wrap things up here on the Bison Basketball Show, and both the NDSU men's and women's teams wrapping up non-conference play on the road before getting into Summit League play at the end of the month. It all starts for the Bison women for a two-day tournament at Texas Rio Grande Valley in the Battle on the Border. Then start conference play against SDSU at home on Midco SN2 before taking on Denver on New Year's Eve. They will return back to Shield Center to host South Dakota on Midco Sports Network in early January. The Bison men take on North Dakota Friday night in a rematch on Midco Sports Network and then head to Fayetteville, Arkansas to wrap up non-conference play against the Razorbacks. NDSU then opening up Summit League play at SDSU on Midco Sports Network before returning home to take on Omaha on New Year's Eve. That will do it for this edition of the Bison Basketball Show. We'll see you after the new year.